The moment I step back through the academy gates, 300 students turn to look at me, and half of them go pale. Because the last time anyone here saw my face, I was standing over a dead king with a blade still dripping in my hand. I'm not supposed to be alive. I'm definitely not supposed to be enrolled. And I am absolutely not supposed to have a soul-bound compatibility with forbidden dark magic sitting at 92%, a number so high that even the instructors who tested it refused to write it down the first time. They just stared at the crystal, then stared at me, then asked me to do it again. Same result. My name is Ronan Ashgale. 3 years ago, I was the top assassin in the entire southern continent. 23 confirmed kills before I turned 17. No name, no face, no mercy. Just a shadow that walked into rooms and walked out alone. And then one contract went wrong, and everything I thought I knew about myself detonated in a single night. Now I'm back at Aurelian Academy, the same school that expelled me 4 years ago for unstable magical alignment, which is a polite way of saying they were terrified of what I might become. Back then, my compatibility barely registered. Now it's the highest anyone's seen in 2 centuries. Funny how that works? The guy walking beside me, golden hair, golden robes, golden everything, doesn't recognize me yet. That's Draven Ashcombe, heir to the Ashcombe bloodline, and the reason I got kicked out in the first place. He humiliated me publicly back then, called me a gutter rat playing dress-up in a noble's school. He has no idea I'm the same person. He also has no idea what I've become. I should probably feel nervous walking past him. Instead, I just feel something colder, something patient, because I didn't come back to fit in. I came back to burn a debt to the ground. But that's later. Let me back up, because none of this makes sense without the part where I actually died. 3 years ago, I was hired for the easiest job of my life. Infiltrate a royal banquet, extract a target, disappear before dawn. Simple. I'd done 100 jobs like it. Except the target wasn't a person. It was a seal. A dark magic containment seal buried under the palace for 400 years, hiding something the royal family swore never to unlock. I didn't know that when I touched it. The moment my hand made contact, the seal didn't just break, it chose me. Poured itself into my body like it had been waiting the whole time for someone stupid enough to knock. I remember the pain first, then the silence, then waking up 3 days later in a burned-out temple with my hands glowing black and every guard in the kingdom hunting for the person who supposedly murdered a king in his sleep. I didn't kill him, the magic did. Through me, without asking. That's the part nobody believes. So I ran, changed my name, buried the assassin, buried the magic, buried everything except one promise, that one day, I'd walk back through the front doors of the one school that saw what I was becoming, and threw me out before I even understood it myself. And now here I am. Enrolled under royal decree, no less, because it turns out the kingdom needs someone who can actually control what's living inside me, and I'm the only test subject who survived contact with it. Lucky me. The academy hasn't changed much. Same tower spires, same overpriced uniforms, same suffocating hierarchy where bloodline matters more than skill. What has changed is how people look at me now. 3 years ago, I was invisible. Now every hallway goes quiet when I walk through it. Word travels fast in a school full of nobles with nothing better to gossip about. That's him, someone whispers. The one with the compatibility score. 92%, another voice says, like it physically hurts to say out loud. That's not even supposed to be possible. I keep walking. I don't correct them. Let the number do the talking. I spent 3 years learning that silence is more dangerous than any blade I ever carried. Then I see her. Lyra Duskwind, 2nd year, top of every combat ranking, daughter of a war hero everyone still whispers about, with either reverence or fear, depending who you ask. She was the only person at this academy who was ever kind to me back when I was nobody. The only one who didn't care that I came from nothing. She's staring at me now like she's seen a ghost, because to her, I basically am one. Ronan, her voice cracks on my name like she doesn't trust her own memory. They said you died. Everyone said you died. I want to tell her everything. The assassination job, the seal. The 3 years I spent alone learning how not to become a monster. But some habits don't die just because you want them to, and mine says, trust nothing, reveal nothing, survive first. So instead I say the worst possible thing. Rumors of my death were exaggerated. She doesn't laugh. She just keeps staring, like she's trying to figure out if I'm actually me or something wearing my face. Honestly, some mornings I wonder the same thing. That night, I'm called into the headmaster's office. Not the whole faculty, just him, alone, door locked, wards active. That's never a good sign. Headmaster Corvin Vale is the only person in this school who knows the full truth, because he's the one who petitioned the Crown to bring me back instead of executing me on sight. He's staring at a report on his desk, and from the way his jaw tightens, I already know it isn't good news. The seal you broke wasn't isolated, he says. There were 4 more like it, buried across the continent. We assumed they were myth. We were wrong. My stomach drops. How wrong? One activated 2 days ago, in the Eastern Territories. He looks up at me, and for the first time, I see actual fear in his eyes. Something walked out of it, something that isn't fully human anymore. Great, just great. And you're telling me this because whatever is inside you resonates with whatever came out of that seal, he says. You're the only living connection we have to understanding what's happening. Which means, like it or not, Ronan, you're the center of this now. I did not sign up to be the center of anything. I signed up to disappear quietly into a classroom and figure out how to stop the thing in my chest from waking up again. Apparently, the universe had other plans. There's more, he adds, and I already hate the way he says it. The Academy is hosting the Continental Trials in 3 weeks. Every major kingdom sends their top students to compete. High visibility, high politics, and the Crown wants you entered. Absolutely not. It's not a request. Of course it isn't. I walk out of that office with a headache and a target on my back that just got 100 times bigger, because now I'm not just the guy with the freakish compatibility score. I'm about to be paraded in front of every noble house on the continent like a prize horse. The next morning, my first class is combat theory, and guess who's sitting 3 seats over with that same insufferable golden smirk? Draven Ashcombe. He leans over before the instructor arrives, voice dripping with the same condescension I remember from 4 years ago. Didn't think they'd let gutter trash back in twice, he says. Just loud enough for the row behind us to hear. Must be desperate. The old me would have said nothing. Swallowed it. Filed it away for later. The way assassins do. Patient. Silent. Waiting for the perfect moment to make someone regret every word. The new me is a lot less patient. Careful, I say, not even looking at him. Last time you talked to me like that, someone ended up unconscious in the training yard for 3 days. His smirk falters. Just slightly. Because he remembers that day too. Except in his version of the story, it was a training accident. In my version, it was the first time the magic inside me leaked out without permission, and I nearly killed a noble's son by accident in front of the entire combat class. That's the real reason I got expelled. Not unstable alignment. Fear. He doesn't know I remember it clearly. He doesn't know I've spent 3 years learning to control the exact thing that almost got me executed that day. He's about to find out the hard way. The instructor walks in. Instructor Selwyn Marrow, a war veteran with a burn scar down one side of his face and 0 patience for noble arrogance, and announces the day's exercise. Sparring matches, randomized pairs, no magic above Tier 2 allowed. Guess whose name gets called against mine? Draven's face lights up like it's Christmas. Perfect, he mutters, cracking his knuckles. Let's see what 3 years of hiding did for you. The whole class gathers around the sparring ring, because apparently gossip travels faster than actual class schedules, and everyone wants to watch the 92% kid either humiliate a noble or get humiliated right back. I take my stance, he takes his. And for a second, I let myself remember exactly why I hated coming to this school in the first place. Then the instructor calls start, and Draven doesn't hesitate. He comes in fast, aggressive, the kind of overconfident opening that only works on people who haven't spent years being hunted by professionals who actually wanted them dead. I sidestep him without even trying. He stumbles past me, off balance, and the crowd goes dead silent. Lucky, he snarls, spinning around. He comes again, faster this time, channeling a Tier 2 flame enchantment through his fist. I could dodge it easily. I could end this in 2 seconds. But 3 years of training taught me something else too. Sometimes the best move isn't the fastest one, it's the one that makes your enemy understand exactly how outmatched they are. So I let the flame graze my sleeve. Let it look close. Let him think he's got me. Then I catch his wrist mid-strike, redirect his own momentum, and put him flat on his back in front of the entire class. The room erupts. Not in laughter this time, in shock. Draven lies there for a second, stunned, staring up at me like the ground itself betrayed him. Then his eyes narrow with pure, humiliated rage. "This isn't over," he hisses. "It really is," I say, and walk away before he can see the small, satisfied smile I've been holding back for 3 years. That should have been the end of it. It wasn't. Because that night, someone breaks into my dorm room while I'm asleep, and I wake up half a second before a blade would have opened my throat. Old instincts don't disappear. My hand catches the attacker's wrist mid-strike, twisting hard enough to hear something crack, and I have them pinned against the wall before they even register what happened. Except when I rip off their hood, it's not Draven, it's Lyra. My stomach drops straight through the floor. "Wait," she gasps. It's me, let go." I release her instantly, heart hammering, adrenaline crashing into confusion. "What the hell are you doing sneaking into my room with a blade at midnight?" She rubs her wrist, glaring, but there's something else underneath the anger. Fear. "I wasn't attacking you," she says. "I was testing you. By almost slitting my throat? By seeing if the rumors were true." Her voice drops, quieter now. "There's been movement near the border. Assassins. Real ones. Not academy sparring partners. Someone's hunting students with high compatibility scores, and you're at the top of that list now." That gets my full attention. "Since when?" "Since yesterday," she says. "One of the first years with elemental compatibility disappeared last night. No trace, no blood, just gone. My blood runs cold because I know exactly what kind of people do clean extractions like that. I used to be one of them. You think I'm a target? I think," she says carefully, "that whatever's inside you is exactly what someone out there wants. And I wanted to know if you could actually defend yourself if they came for you tonight." I look down at her wrist, already bruising from where I grabbed her. "Test passed," I say dryly. "Please don't do that again." She almost smiles. "Almost. Whatever's happening," she says, turning to leave. "You're not as hidden as you think you are, Ronan. People are watching, and not all of them are friendly." She's gone before I can ask who they are. I don't sleep the rest of that night. The next few days blur together in a mix of classes, whispered rumors, and the growing, uncomfortable feeling that I'm being watched from every angle. Draven avoids me now, which honestly feels like a win. But something darker is building underneath the surface of this school, and I can feel it the same way I used to feel a job about to go wrong. That itch behind the eyes right before everything falls apart. Then the Continental Trials announcement drops, and my name is at the very top of the roster. Ronan Ashgale, 92% Dark Magic Compatibility. Public exhibition match, Week 3, against the top representative of the Ashcombe bloodline. They didn't even ask. They just paired me directly against Draven, in front of every noble house on the continent, like they wanted a spectacle. Like they wanted to see whether the gutter kid with the terrifying number could actually back it up, or whether he'd crack under pressure exactly the way he did 4 years ago. I corner Headmaster Vale in his office that afternoon, furious. "You knew about this?" "I suggested it," he admits, not even flinching. "The Crown wants proof, Ronan. Proof that your compatibility is an asset, not a threat. This is the fastest way to show every kingdom what you can do before they decide you're too dangerous to exist. And if I lose control during the match? If the magic decides to make its own decision again, like it did last time?" His silence answers for him. That's exactly the risk he's taking. I storm out before I say something I regret, and that's when I nearly collide with someone in the hallway I definitely didn't expect to see. A girl in a black travel cloak, hood low, standing perfectly still like she's been waiting for me specifically. When she lifts her head, her eyes are an unnatural shade of violet, the same color the seal glowed the night it broke inside me. "You feel it too, don't you?" she says quietly. "The pull, like something's calling you home." My whole body goes rigid. "Who are you?" "Someone who survived the same thing you did," she says. Except I didn't get lucky enough to walk away and pretend it never happened. Before I can ask anything else, she's gone. Vanished into the crowded hallway like she was never there at all. And that's when the real problem started. Over the following days, students start disappearing in ones and twos. Quiet. Clean. No struggle, no blood, no trace. Every single one of them has elevated magical compatibility. Every single one of them vanished at night, alone, unguarded. The academy goes into lockdown. Patrols double. Wards tighten. And still, someone gets through anyway. Because whoever is doing this isn't just skilled. They're using dark magic to bypass detection entirely. Which means whoever is behind this understands the exact same forbidden power sitting inside my chest. I corner Headmaster Vale again, this time demanding answers instead of asking politely. The seal that broke inside me. You said there were 4 more. Where are they now? His expression turns grim. 3 remain sealed. 1 broke in the east, like I told you, and the last one. He hesitates, which is never a good sign from a man who doesn't usually hesitate. The last one was located beneath this academy. Under the old training grounds. My blood goes cold. You're telling me there's an active dark seal directly under our feet? Was, he corrects. Until 3 nights ago. Same night the first student disappeared. Everything clicks into place at once, and none of it is good. Whatever came out of that seal isn't hunting students randomly. It's hunting compatibility, harvesting it, growing stronger with every disappearance. And the continental trials, with every high compatibility student on the continent gathered in one place? It's not a competition, it's a buffet. I need to warn someone. I need to convince the faculty to cancel the trials before half the continent's most gifted students become the next casualties in whatever nightmare crawled up from underneath this school. Except when I bring this theory to the emergency faculty meeting that night, they don't believe me. Worse, they think I'm trying to sabotage the trials because I'm scared of losing to Draven in front of everyone. Convenient timing for a conspiracy theory, one instructor mutters, not even bothering to hide his contempt. The gutter rat suddenly develops a survival instinct right before his public match. I want to scream. Instead, I keep my voice level, because losing my temper here proves exactly the wrong point. I'm telling you something is using dark compatibility as bait, I say, and in 3 days, you're going to hand it the biggest gathering of compatible students the continent has ever assembled in one place. Silence, then dismissal. They don't cancel the trials. They barely even file a report. That night, Lyra finds me on the academy rooftop, staring out at the training grounds where, according to Headmaster Vale, an ancient dark seal broke wide open 3 nights ago without anyone noticing until it was too late. You really believe something's down there, she says, sitting beside me without asking permission. I don't believe it, I say. I know it. I felt something the moment I stepped onto this campus, like recognizing an old scar. She's quiet for a long moment. Then, whatever it is, if it's connected to you the way you think it is, that makes you the only person who can actually track it down before the trials happen. Or the only person stupid enough to try. She smiles slightly. Same thing, historically. Fair point. That night, we sneak down to the old training grounds together, against every rule this academy has, because apparently I still haven't learned my lesson about following instructions. The training grounds are exactly as abandoned as I remembered. Overgrown, cracked stone, thick silence pressing down like a held breath. But the moment we step onto the central platform, the air changes. Colder, heavier. My skin prickles with a familiar, sickening resonance. The same feeling I had the night the seal broke inside me 3 years ago. You feel that? Lyra whispers. Yeah, I say. I feel it. Then, without warning, the ground beneath the platform cracks open, revealing a spiral staircase descending into pitch darkness that absolutely should not exist beneath a school training yard. We shouldn't go down there. We go down there anyway. The staircase seems to stretch far longer than physically possible, torches igniting themselves as we pass, casting flickering violet light across ancient stone carved with symbols I recognize immediately, the exact same symbols that were burned into my hands the night everything changed. At the bottom, we find a massive underground chamber, and standing in the center of it is the hooded girl from the hallway. Except this time, she's not alone. Beside her stands something that used to be human. Its skin is cracked like old porcelain, violet light leaking from every fracture, eyes completely hollow except for twin points of burning dark energy. It doesn't move like a person anymore. It moves like something wearing a person's shape as a disguise. You came, the hooded girl says, almost gently. I knew you would. What is that thing? I demand, though some horrified part of me already suspects the answer. The first student who disappeared, she says quietly. What's left of him anyway? The seal doesn't just release power, Ronan. It consumes compatible bodies to sustain itself. Every student who vanished became fuel. Lyra's hand tightens around her weapon. You're the one taking them. I'm the one trying to stop it, the girl snaps, sudden anger cracking through her calm. I've spent 3 years hunting these seals before they can do what happened to me. What happened to him? She gestures at the hollow creature beside her. What almost happened to you? My mind reels. Almost happened to me how? The seal chose you the same way it chose him, she says. The difference is, you got away before it finished the process. He didn't. The hollow creature suddenly lets out a sound that isn't human, a screech that shakes dust from the ceiling, and lunges straight for Lyra. I don't think. I move. Dark energy floods through my arms before I even consciously call it, the same forbidden power I've spent 3 years terrified of using, and for the first time, instead of fighting it, I let it answer. Black light erupts from my hands, catching the creature mid-lunge and slamming it into the chamber wall hard enough to crack the stone. For a second, everyone freezes, because that shouldn't have been possible. Tier 2 students don't casually block dark tier monsters with bare hands. I'm not Tier 2 anymore. I don't know what I am. The creature shrieks again, dragging itself upright, and the hooded girl steps forward urgently. It's drawn to your compatibility now. Being this close to another source will make it desperate. We need to either destroy it or seal it again, right now, before it calls more of them. How do we seal something like that? Her violet eyes lock onto mine. The same way it happened to you the first time. Direct contact. Except this time, you control it instead of letting it control you. Terrifying. Absolutely terrifying. I do it anyway. I step forward, ignoring Lyra's sharp protest, and slam my palm directly against the creature's cracked chest the instant it lunges again. Dark energy floods between us violently, feedback screaming through my nerves like fire, memories flashing, not mine, someone else's, fragments of the boy this creature used to be before the seal consumed him completely. For one horrifying second, I feel exactly what he felt as it happened. Then I force the energy inward instead of outward, compressing it, crushing the seal's hold instead of letting it consume me the way it consumed him. The creature shudders, screams, then collapses into ash and violet light, disintegrating completely, leaving nothing behind except silence and the ringing in my ears. I drop to one knee, breathing hard, hands shaking uncontrollably. Lyra's at my side instantly. Are you? I'm fine, I lie. The hooded girl watches me carefully, something unreadable in her expression. You just did something that should have taken years of training to control, she says slowly. 92% compatibility isn't just a number, Ronan. It means the magic recognizes you as something closer to its original vessel than anyone else alive. Meaning what exactly? Meaning the remaining seals are going to want you a lot more than they wanted him, she says, nodding toward the ash where the creature used to be. And meaning whoever orchestrated this, because someone did orchestrate this, is going to realize very quickly that you're the most valuable target on the continent. That's when it hits me. The disappearances. The convenient timing of the continental trials. The fact that every high compatibility student on the continent is about to gather in one heavily publicized location in less than 3 days. Someone wanted this exact scenario. The trials, I say slowly. Someone's using them as bait, not for random students, for me. The hooded girl's expression turns grim. Then you have 2 choices. Refuse to compete and let them come find you somewhere less controlled. Or compete and force whoever's behind this to reveal themselves in front of every kingdom on the continent. Both options are insane. I already know which one I'm choosing. We climb back up out of that chamber in silence, and by the time we reach the surface, dawn is already breaking over the academy rooftops. Lyra doesn't say anything for a long moment, just watches me with an expression somewhere between worry and something else I don't have time to examine right now. You're really going to fight in the trials, she says finally. I'm going to use the trials, I correct. Big difference. And if whoever's behind this decides to make a move in front of every noble house on the continent, I think about the ash where a student used to be. I think about 92% and what it might mean that the magic recognizes me as something close to its original shape. Then they picked the wrong person to bait, I say. Let them come. I'm done running from what's inside me. She almost smiles at that. Almost. Good, she says quietly. Because I don't think you could outrun it even if you tried. 3 days pass in a blur of secret training sessions with the hooded girl, whose name I eventually learn is Expelled, a former student from a neighboring kingdom who survived a seal awakening years before mine and has spent every year since hunting the remaining ones alone. She teaches me control instead of suppression, how to let the dark energy move with me instead of fighting to keep it locked away. It's the opposite of everything the academy tried to teach me 4 years ago. It's also the first time in 3 years I don't feel like a ticking bomb wearing a human disguise. The morning of the Continental Trials arrives with the entire academy grounds transformed. Banners from every major kingdom, noble families filling the stands, Reporters and scholars and curious spectators packed shoulder to shoulder for a spectacle 3 years in the making. And standing across the arena from me, golden and smug and utterly unaware of everything happening beneath the surface of this school, is Draven Ashcombe. Ready to lose in front of everyone who matters? He calls out, drawing laughter from the noble section of the crowd. I don't answer. I just roll my shoulders and let a thread of dark energy flicker visibly across my knuckles for the first time in public. Controlled, deliberate, a warning wrapped in a demonstration. The laughter stops immediately. The match begins the moment the horn sounds, and Draven comes in exactly like he did in class. Aggressive, overconfident, throwing Tier 3 flame enchantments meant to end this fast and humiliate me publicly, the way he's clearly been planning since our last sparring match. I let the first two hit. Let the crowd think I'm struggling. Then I stop holding back. Dark energy floods through my strikes. Not wild and dangerous the way it used to leak out of me by accident, but controlled, precise, exactly the way Isolde taught me. I close the distance before Draven can react, redirect his own flame enchantment straight back at him, and put him on the ground so hard the entire arena goes dead silent. For a full 3 seconds, nobody moves. Then the crowd erupts. Not mockery this time, but stunned, disbelieving applause, because everyone just watched the gutter rat dismantle a noble bloodline champion without breaking a sweat. I should feel satisfied. I do, for about 4 seconds. Then the sky above the arena cracks open with violet light, and I know immediately exactly what's about to happen. A massive dark rift tears open above the stadium, and 3 hollow creatures, bigger, stronger, more coherent than the one Isolde and I destroyed underground, descend directly into the middle of the Continental Trials in front of every noble house on the continent. Screaming erupts, guards scramble, and through the chaos, I catch sight of a figure standing at the edge of the arena, watching calmly, hood raised, violet-touched eyes locked directly on me. Not Isolde, someone else. Someone who orchestrated all of this from the very beginning. Ronan Ashgale, the figure calls out, voice carrying unnaturally across the chaos. 92% compatibility. I've been waiting 3 years to finish what that seal started inside you. My blood runs cold. Because I finally understand. This was never random. Someone has been hunting compatible students, harvesting them, building toward this exact moment. A public stage, every noble house watching, and me standing in the center of it as the final piece they've been chasing since the night I broke a seal I never meant to touch. He picked the wrong day to reveal himself. I turned to face him fully, dark energy already gathering at my fingertips. Lyra and Isolde moving to flank me from either side as the hollow creatures close in and the entire Continental Trials descends into chaos around us. You want what's inside me? I say, voice steady despite my hammering heart. Come and take it, he smiles from beneath his hood. Gladly, he says. And that's when the real fight, the one 3 years in the making, finally begins. The hollow creatures hit the ground like meteors, cracking stone, and the entire arena turns into screaming chaos in half a second. Nobles scatter. Guards who spent all morning standing at attention suddenly remember they have legs. And I'm standing in the middle of it, dark energy still crawling across my knuckles from the fight with Draven, staring at a hooded man who just told 300 witnesses he's been waiting 3 years for me. Ronan! Lyra's already moving, blade drawn, positioning herself between me and the nearest creature. What is he talking about? I don't know, I say, but I intend to ask him personally. The nearest hollow creature turns toward the sound of my voice like a compass finding north. Same cracked porcelain skin as the one underground. Same hollow eyes leaking violet fire. Except this one is bigger, faster, and it's not alone. 2 more flank it, moving in perfect, unnatural sync, like puppets on the same string. They're not hunting randomly. They're hunting me. Lyra, left flank. Isolde's voice cuts through the noise, calm in a way that shouldn't be possible with monsters raining out of the sky. She's already moving, cloak snapping behind her, violet-touched eyes locked on the hooded figure across the arena. I'll take the center. Ronan, I've got the one coming from the right, I say, because I can already feel it closing in, that same sick resonance pulling at the base of my skull. She nods once, no hesitation, like we've done this 100 times instead of once, underground, 3 days ago. The creature on my right lunges, and I don't dodge this time. I meet it head-on, dark energy flooding through my arm exactly the way Isolde taught me, and when my fist connects with its chest, the impact sounds like a hammer hitting a bell. It staggers back, shrieking, that same ceiling-shaking screech, and for the first time since the trials began, I hear real fear ripple through the crowd instead of excitement. Good. Fear is honest. Excitement gets people killed. Across the arena, Draven is still on the ground where I put him, staring up at the chaos with an expression I've genuinely never seen on his face before. Not arrogance, not humiliation, something closer to understanding. He watches me redirect the creature's next strike, watches dark light crawl across my forearms like something alive and hungry, and I catch the exact moment his golden certainty about the world. Nobles on top, gutter trash below, bloodline as destiny, cracks straight down the middle. Move, I snap at him, because he's still sitting in the dirt like an idiot, while a second creature closes in from his blind side. He scrambles up just in time, not gracefully, not with any of his usual polish, but he moves, and that's enough for now. The hooded man hasn't moved from the edge of the arena the entire time. He just watches, hands folded, like he's grading a very interesting exam. Impressive, he calls out, voice carrying unnaturally over the screaming crowd. The seal chose well 3 years ago. Better than I expected, honestly. Something about the phrase, seal chose well, makes my stomach twist. You knew, I say, loud enough for him to hear across the chaos. You knew what that seal would do to whoever touched it. I knew exactly what it would do, he says. That was rather the point. Isolde's entire posture changes beside me. Sharper, colder, every muscle coiled like a drawn bowstring. Halric, she says, and the name lands in my chest like a dropped stone, because I can hear 3 years of hatred packed into 2 syllables. The hooded man finally lowers his hood. He's older than I expected. Silver hair, sharp cheekbones, the kind of face that probably used to belong in a lecture hall instead of a nightmare. There's a faded academy crest stitched into the collar of his robe, half burned, like he ripped it off himself a long time ago and never quite finished the job. Instructor Halric Grimvane, Isolde says, each word bitten off like it costs her something to say. Formerly of this academy, exiled 11 years ago for illegal experimentation on students with elevated compatibility. Something cold settles behind my ribs. Experimentation, I repeat. He didn't just study compatibility, Isolde says, eyes never leaving him. He tried to force it, accelerate it, break students open to see what was underneath, and when the crown found out, they exiled him instead of executing him, because his research was too valuable to destroy. Halric spreads his hands, almost modest. Kingdoms are terrible at finishing things properly. It's why I've had 11 years to keep working uninterrupted. Another creature lunges at Lyra, and she pivots, blade catching it across the shoulder in a spray of violet light. It shrieks and stumbles back, and she's already resetting her stance before it even finishes falling. You've been hunting compatible students this whole time, I say. Building this. Hunting is such an ugly word. Halric's tone stays maddeningly pleasant, like we're discussing weather instead of a massacre in progress. I've been cultivating, refining, trying to find a vessel stable enough to survive what the ancient seals actually contain. And the students who disappeared? Necessary failures, he says, without the smallest flicker of guilt. Every experiment has a cost. You, however, his eyes fixed directly on mine, and something behind them gleams with genuine, unsettling delight. You're not a failure at all. You're the first success I've ever had. The words hit harder than any punch Draven threw all match. I'm nothing like what you made, I say. Aren't you? He tilts his head slightly. 92% compatibility, Ronan. Do you know how many test subjects I ran through 5 different seals to find someone who could reach even 60? You didn't stumble into that number by accident. You were routed toward it. The world tilts sideways for half a second. Routed. 3 years ago, he says, almost gently, like he's delivering good news. A very simple assassination contract crossed your desk. Infiltrate a royal banquet. Extract a target. A job so easy, so beneath your skill level, you almost turned it down out of boredom. Do you remember who hired you? I remember. I remember it exactly, because I've replayed that night 1,000 times trying to understand how everything went so wrong. A broker, I say slowly. Third party, no name. A broker I paid very well to make sure that particular job landed on your desk, and no one else's, Halric says. I spent 2 years narrowing down candidates before I found you. Every skill assessment, every kill count, every psychological profile pointed to one conclusion. You were the only assassin skilled enough to reach that sealed chamber undetected, and unstable enough in exactly the right way to survive contact with what was sealed inside it. The ground feels like it's dropping away beneath me. You set me up. I engineered you, he corrects, almost fondly, like a proud father describing a difficult but ultimately successful project. Every step, the contract, the banquet, the seal placement inside the palace that made it look like royal business instead of my research. Even your expulsion from this academy 4 years earlier. Did you ever wonder why unstable magical alignment just happened to be the exact phrase the faculty used, when your compatibility barely registered on any test they ran? I did wonder. For years, actually. I suggested the phrasing, he says, long before you ever touched that seal. I needed you unstable enough on paper to be dismissed by everyone who might have protected you, and skilled enough in practice to actually reach the chamber when the time came. Everything that happened to you, Ronan, the expulsion, the assassin's life, the contract, the seal, every piece of it led exactly here. That was the trials, I want to scream. Instead, my voice comes out flat and cold, the exact voice I used to use right before a kill. You've been planning this since before I even became an assassin. I've been planning this since before you turned 14, Halric says. Patience is the one skill nobody respects anymore. Rage floods through me so fast it burns, and for one dangerous second, dark energy surges up my arms without permission, black light flaring bright enough that people in the front rows scramble backward. Careful, Isolde says quietly, not looking at me. That's exactly the reaction he wants. She's right. I hate that she's right. I force the surge back down, breathing hard, and Halric watches the entire struggle with the delighted expression of a man watching an experiment perform precisely as predicted. Beautiful control, he says. Better than I dared hope. The seal really did choose perfectly. Stop calling it that, I snap, like it's some kind of honor. It is the only honor that's ever mattered, he says, voice sharpening for the first time, losing its pleasant veneer. Do you have any idea what's actually sealed away in those 5 chambers? What the ancient kingdom that built them was trying to contain? Enlighten me. His smile turns thin and hungry. Not today. Today is simply proof of concept. He raises one hand, and the sky above the arena tears open wider, violet light spilling out like a wound. 2 more hollow creatures drop through, bigger than the last 3, joints cracking wrong as they hit the ground. 5 vessels! Isolde snarls under her breath. He's forcing multiple resonance points at once. He's trying to overload the barrier. In English, I say, dodging a swipe from the creature nearest me and driving dark energy through a counterstrike that finally puts it down for good. He's trying to see how much strain your compatibility can take before it breaks, she says. This isn't a fight, Ronan. It's a stress test. Wonderful. Absolutely wonderful. Draven finally finds his footing beside Lyra, flame enchantment flickering weakly around his fists, none of his usual smugness left in his expression. Someone want to explain what any of this means? He shouts over the noise. Later, Lyra snaps, ducking under a claw swipe and driving her blade into the creature's exposed side. Right now, hit the ugly ones. Extremely helpful, thank you, Draven mutters, but he moves anyway, flame catching against one creature's arm, and for a second I catch something new in his face. Not fear exactly, but the dawning realization that the world he thought he understood is a lot smaller than the one currently trying to kill him. The battle stretches into something chaotic and blurred. 5 creatures against 4 fighters, guards finally arriving in scattered formation to evacuate panicking nobles instead of actually helping. I lose track of individual moments and fall into something older, some instinct carved into muscle memory from years of contracts and kills. Strike, redirect, disable, move, strike again. Except this time it's not silent and solitary. This time Lyra's shouting warnings at my back. Isolde's weaving dark counters into every gap I leave open. Even Draven, useless golden Draven, catches a creature mid-lunge with a flame blast that saves me from a hit I didn't see coming. We're even, he shouts, breathless, not quite meeting my eyes. We are not even, not close. But I don't have time to argue the math right now. One by one the creatures fall. Not destroyed the clean way the underground one was, but battered down, forced back into whatever half-formed state keeps them from fully collapsing. Halric watches the entire thing without a trace of concern, like losing this round barely registers as a setback. Enough, he finally says, and the remaining creatures freeze mid-motion, then dissolve into violet mist, retreating back through the tear in the sky, like obedient dogs called to heel. The arena falls into ringing, exhausted silence. I'm breathing hard, dark energy still crackling faintly across my hands, staring at the man who just calmly confirmed he orchestrated the worst night of my life on purpose. You're not getting away with this, I say. I already have, Halric says. 3 years of preparation, 1 public demonstration. Every noble house on this continent just watched you dismantle 5 hollow creatures without breaking a sweat, which means every noble house on this continent now understands exactly how valuable you are. Valuable to who? To whoever controls you, he says simply, which very soon will be me. Anger surges through me again, sharper this time, and I take a step toward him without thinking, dark energy flooding through my legs, ready to close the distance in half a second and end this permanently. Ronan, wait! Isolde starts. Too late, I lunge. Halric doesn't flinch. He simply raises one hand, and the air around him warps violently, the same violet tear opening directly behind him like a personal doorway. Not today, he says, almost gently. You're not ready yet. When you are, you'll come find me on your own. You always were good at finding your way to exactly where I needed you. The words land like a slap. I reach him half a second too late, hand closing on nothing but empty air as he steps backward through the rift, robe fluttering, silver hair catching violet light. This isn't over, I snarl. No, he agrees, already fading into the tear. It's only just beginning. Give my regards to Corvin Vale. Tell him I said thank you for keeping you alive long enough to finish what I started. The rift snaps shut behind him with a sound like a slammed door, and the arena falls into stunned, ringing silence. For a long moment, nobody moves, nobody speaks. The entire Continental Trials, hundreds of nobles, scholars, and kingdom representatives, just stares at the empty space where a man who orchestrated a murder, an assassination, and a 3-year manhunt vanished like he had all the time in the world. Because apparently, he does. Then the chaos resumes, twice as loud as before. Guards shouting evacuation orders, nobles scrambling toward exits, healers rushing toward the handful of injured spectators caught in the initial rift. Lyra reaches me first, gripping my shoulder hard enough to hurt. Are you hit? Are you hurt anywhere? I'm fine, I say, which is becoming my automatic answer regardless of whether it's true. Isolde's expression is grim, jaw tight, eyes still fixed on the space where the rift closed. He's stronger than I remembered, she says quietly. 11 years of research, and I still barely recognized half of what he just did. You knew him, I say. Before. I was one of his research subjects, she says, voice flat, like she's reciting a fact instead of a memory. Before I escaped. Before I started hunting the seals he wanted so badly. That explains a lot. It also raises about 100 new questions I don't have time to ask right now. Draven approaches slowly, uncertain, flame enchantment fully extinguished, most of his golden polish replaced with something rawer. He looks at me like he's seeing an entirely different person than the one he humiliated in class 3 days ago. That thing, he says, what you did to it, that wasn't tier 2 magic. No, I agree, it wasn't. That wasn't tier 3 either. No. He stares at me a moment longer, something visibly shifting behind his eyes. 3 years of assumed superiority, cracking under the weight of what he just watched. Everything I said to you, he says slowly, about gutter trash, about not belonging here. Save it, I say, not unkindly, just exhausted. We can have the redemption arc later. Right now I need to find Headmaster Vale. He nods, oddly subdued, and for the first time since I walked back through the academy gates, Draven Ashcombe doesn't look like a golden noble with an easy life. He looks like someone who just realized the world is a lot bigger and a lot more dangerous than his bloodline ever prepared him for. Guards finally reach us, ushering everyone toward the evacuation routes, but Headmaster Vale intercepts our group personally before we make it off the arena floor, face pale, expression somewhere between fury and fear. My office, he says. Now. The walk there is silent, tense, the entire academy grounds buzzing with panicked whispers, and the distant sound of guards securing every gate and hallway. By the time we reach his office, doors locking automatically behind us, wards flaring to life along every wall, Vale looks like he's aged 5 years in the last 20 minutes. Start talking, he says, voice tight. All of it. I tell him everything. The hooded man's name, the confession about the original contract, the 11 years of exile and experimentation, the 5 seals, deliberately engineered pathways, and the horrifying detail that Halric didn't just find me. He built the exact circumstances that led me to that seal chamber 3 years ago, piece by piece, contract by contract, expulsion by expulsion. Vale's face grows paler with every sentence. He said you knew him, I finish. He told me to give you his regards. Something dark passes behind Vale's eyes. Halric Grimvane was my research partner, he says quietly. 20 years ago, before the illegal experiments, before the exile. The room goes very still. You knew him, I repeat. I recommended his exile personally, Vale says, and there's real weight behind the words, real guilt. I found out what he was doing to students, and I ended his career instead of destroying him completely, because I believed exile was punishment enough. I believed he'd disappear and stay disappeared. He's been planning my entire life for the last 11 years, I say, unable to keep the edge out of my voice. That's not disappearing, that's patience. I know, Vale says heavily, and that mistake is mine to answer for. Isolde steps forward, arms crossed, expression unreadable. There's something else you should know, she says. The 5 seals aren't independent. Halric said this was proof of concept, meaning today wasn't his real plan. Today was a test to see how much strain compatibility can absorb before breaking. Breaking into what? Draven asks quietly. I don't know, Isolde admits, and for the first time since I met her, actual uncertainty flickers across her face. But whatever the seals were built to contain, Halric isn't trying to destroy it. He's trying to release it. And he's been using compatible students as fuel to get there. Vale sinks into the chair behind his desk, suddenly looking every year of his age. The Continental trials are suspended, effective immediately, he says. I'll be issuing a formal statement within the hour. The Academy is going under martial lockdown until we understand exactly what we're dealing with. Lockdown won't stop him, I say. He walked into the middle of the trials in front of every noble house on the continent and walked back out through a hole in the sky. A curfew isn't going to slow him down. No, Vale agrees, but it will slow down whoever tries to reach you next. The words land heavier than I expect. You think there's more coming? I think, Vale says slowly, that a man who spent 11 years engineering one perfect vessel isn't going to give up after a single failed demonstration. I think he'll be back. And I think next time, he won't be testing you. Then what will he be doing? Vale's eyes meet mine. Grim and certain. Collecting. The word settles into the room like a physical weight. Lyra's hand finds my shoulder again, steadier this time. We're not letting that happen, she says, quiet but absolutely certain. No, Isolde agrees. We're not. Draven, still visibly rattled, still processing 3 years of assumed superiority crumbling in real time, straightens slightly and clears his throat. For what it's worth, he says, not quite looking at me, I'd rather not let some silver-haired lunatic collect anyone either. It's not an apology. It's not even close to one. But it's something, and given everything else happening right now, I'll take it. Val rubs his temples, exhaling slowly. The kingdoms will demand answers, he says. Political fallout from this will be immediate and severe. Some factions will call for your protection. Others will call for your detention, arguing you're too dangerous to remain unsupervised after what just happened. After I helped defend the trials, I say flatly, after you demonstrated power capable of matching 5 hollow creatures without visible strain, Vale corrects. To frighten people, Ronan, that's not heroism. That's a threat wearing a hero's mask. Great. Just great. Save the entire Continental trials from a conspiracy 11 years in the making, and somehow still end up on a list of things people want locked away. So what happens now? Lyra asks. Vale is quiet for a long moment, staring at the report on his desk, the one detailing 5 seals, 1 exiled traitor, and a plan that's apparently been unfolding since before I even picked up my first blade. Now, he says finally, we prepare. Because whatever Halric is building toward, today was only the opening move. And something tells me the next one won't come with a warning. Outside his office window, I can see Academy guards sealing every gate, banners from a dozen kingdoms being hauled down early. The Continental trials dissolving into exactly the kind of political disaster Vale predicted. 3 years ago, I ran from a knight I didn't understand, carrying a power I never asked for, hunted by a kingdom that thought I murdered their king. Now I know the truth. I was never random. I was never unlucky. Every step of that night, every contract, every expulsion, was placed in front of me like breadcrumbs by a man patient enough to wait over a decade to see if his experiment would finally bear fruit. I press my palm flat against the cold window pane, feeling the faint, restless hum of dark energy still simmering beneath my skin, an itch that never fully fades now. Somewhere out there, Halric Grimvane is already planning his next move, already deciding exactly how and when he intends to collect what he spent 11 years engineering. He said I wasn't ready yet. He said I'd come find him on my own. He has no idea how wrong he is about that first part, and no idea how right he might end up being about the second. Because as terrifying as everything that just happened was, one thought keeps circling back through my mind louder than all the rest. For the first time in 3 years, I finally know who to hunt. And unlike him, I've never needed 11 years of patience to finish a job.